The Delta Theta Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated will be celebrating 70 years next April 13th. And we have the honor and great pleasure to be in the presence this afternoon of one of the chapter's charter members, Brother Reverend Dr. Henry Bradford Jr. And Brother Bradford, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing very well, so thank you very much.
We are so pleased to be here in your home and in your presence. It's our honor.
I am honored by my presence here.
Indeed.
All you distinguished gentlemen.
Well, we're following in your footsteps, good sir. Or we're trying to anyway at the most. We're trying to follow in your footsteps.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about your early life growing up in Louisiana.
Yeah.
What was it like over 70 years ago for you?
It was just wonderful.
Okay.
I grew up in what was known as the back of town in Louisiana and New Orleans. We grew up in the church where we attended with regularity, with the idea in mind that we could give as well as receive. And where I grew up, I had excellent training in the church, and eventually coming out of Delta University, which is my undergraduate school, I did everything I could was pleasing in the sight of God. And all I could do to render the kind of service that I could. God had blessed me with talent. He had blessed me with good family, with superior teachers who seemed to have taken interest in me and told me what I needed to do to continue to enrich my life. So I did not know what that would concern us. At the time, I was majoring in music. But later on, the gentleman who was the chaplain at the school saw a vision in my life that made it necessary to tell me that he thought that I had a call to the ministry. And he said, well, I want to send you to the best school in the country. Excuse me. So I went. And I did all I could there. I think he sent me to Oberlin. And that's why after I had done my work at Delta University in New Orleans, I went to seminary. And I was under there, but I had a lot of responsibilities. We discovered that I had been a music major at my school, and so they kept me busy at the seminary, not only learning, but also serving. And I worked with the school in the capacity of the organist. And I learned more, I think, than they could give me. But all the teachers were so inspiring and so encouraging to make me believe that I could become somebody someday. And knowing that I was interested in serving the Lord, they said, well, when you leave here, you move in that direction and take what you learn here and not keep it, but to use it for the uplifting humanity and the nation. And I say that I will do everything possible to do that, because I have been blessed by others and I want to give to others. That's what God will permit me to do. And I think that I have the opportunities to go to some of the best schools in the world. I think if those orders are given to me, and I accepted them, and that's what I did.
You have indeed, Brother Bradford, rendered great service over your life and your career. Talk a little bit about your ministry. Of course, we know you here in Huntsville. You were, for several years, the pastor of the Church Street Cumberland Presbyterian Church, and now currently pastor emeritus. Share a little bit about your ministry with Church Street and beyond that.
I just did what I was asked to do, and I served in the capacity of my academic preparation in seminary, which I said a few minutes ago was in Oberlin in Ohio, and I went back to serve in the community, and that's what I did. And I loved it all the way, teaching and learning, and making it so challenging to the students. So one student told me one day, he said, "Dr. Bradford, we love you," he said, "but you must think we are at Harvard somewhere." I said, "You are. You're at Harvard where you are. And you prepare yourself to do what God wants you to do when you get out." And that's what I've been doing all my life.
Indeed.
So you've been given, and you pass it back. I am never concerned about moving myself forward, but I want to do something for somebody else. I am still doing that now. I can't do it as much as I did many years ago because I don't have the strength to do it and some of the other things in my body. But everything I can do, I'll do with all my heart because God has been rich to me, and I want to be grateful to His people, to lead them, to love them, to serve them. And that's the way of my life.
For years, over 40 years indeed, you were employed at Alabama A&M University.
Yes, sir.
As the chaplain and as the chair of the Department of Music.
Yes, sir.
Talk about the decades of young people who you have mentored and taught and trained through your ministry of music at Alabama A&M.
Well, in the early stages, I was working more directly with my classroom activities, preparing them to go to use the gifts that they were receiving after school to move it out into the community. But I also told them when you get out there, you're not out there to elevate yourself and to have people feel that they should honor you, but you're going to serve people. And that was my philosophy all the way. And it still is. And I think I've been rewarded because when I hear students call me back from various places, some out of the country, and some in the country, and it's widespread expanse. I praise God that I have been able to serve.
With all of the wonderful work that you've done through your ministry, through education, through music, Dr. Bradford, you've had a beautiful young lady by your side. And of course we know behind every good man is a better woman.
Yeah.
And she's seated right across there.
Yes, sir.
Where did you meet Nell Lane?
Well, I'll tell you. I was going to seminary one day at a school called Oberlin University. And a lady came into the living room where I was, and she said to me, because she was new as I was new. May I come and sit over there where you are? And I said, yes, ma'am, come along. God took care of the rest of it.
Indeed, he did. And you've been together now for 70 years.
Yes, sir.
That is a testimony within itself.
Yes,
a beautiful testimony.
Yes, sir.
And your family, your son's here with us as well, but you have your daughter, Andrea, and your grandson, Henry, who is a teacher in Nashville, so he has followed in your footsteps. Let's talk a little bit now, Brother Bradford, about Alpha. Now, you were a member of Alpha Phi Alpha when you and Mrs. Bradford came to Alabama A&M back in the 1940s.
Yeah.
And you were one of the charter members of the Delta Theta Lambda and the Delta Gamma chapter, the college chapter at Alabama A&M.
Yeah.
You were and have been an influence on so many people in so many different ways. For myself, as a member of Alpha, I can say, Dr. Bradford, that you were one of the reasons I joined the fraternity. When I was at Alabama A&M, you and so many of those other gentlemen who were such stalwart examples. What was it like in the early years of the fraternity for you as a student at Dillard there in Louisiana? During your days as an undergraduate Alpha at Dillard, what was it like?
Oh, it was wonderful, wonderful. I had one of the best persons to approach me. He was, at the time, I was majoring in music. And he was an Alpha. And he led me to Alpha. And I just went from there.
Okay.
And it was gratifying.
He was the kind of example for you that you have been for so many others over the last 60, 70 years.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Indeed.
Well, the pleasure has been mine. And I don't think it was given to me to put it under the shovel someplace.
Not to hide it under a bushel.
Or to exhibit my egotism.
Right.
I don't have that.
Right.
I serve.
Yes.
And you give to pass it on to others.
Indeed.
And that's what I've tried to do all my life.
Indeed. Finally, Dr. Bradford, what do you think of all the many things and of all the service you've given to so many people in so many places over the years? What do you think your greatest legacy is?
To let people know that they could do all that could do, and particularly people in schools and in churches. Make the world a better place because you're there. Don't hoard it. Share it. That's what God would want you to do.
Yes.
And that's what you must do. The world become a better place because you're there.
Well, Dr. Bradford, again, it has been our honor to be here with you and to share this time with you today. Certainly not many chapters of Alpha anywhere in the country have the pleasure of having one of their charter members still here with them. Certainly a chapter as old as Delta Theta Lambda, but beyond just Alpha, just again from the work through your education, your music, your family, you have indeed been a wonderful servant. And I think when it is your time, he will indeed say, "Servant, well done."
That's right. Alpha's a great organization. I'm so glad I was there.
So are we. So are we. Thank you so much, Brother Bradford. We appreciate it.
Thank God.
Thank you, Brother Bradford. All right. First of all, Mrs. Bradford, good afternoon, and wonderful to see you, ma'am.
Nice to see you too.
As always, and again, thank you all so much for inviting us into your home and welcoming us and giving us this opportunity to talk with you and Brother Bradford. As we were asking him, as we said, with all of his years of service through his ministry, his music, his education, you have been his rock, right there with him through it all. Now, for two young people coming to Alabama A&M back during the 1940s to begin your careers as educators, what was it like for Nell Lane Bradford? Because as we mentioned, Brother Bradford was a member of Alpha Phi Alpha when you all came here, but you yourself were a member and are a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and you are a charter member of the Huntsville Alumni Chapter. So as a young woman like yourself, getting started with your career and your family, what was that like during the 1940s here in North Alabama?
Well, I guess as a young person just coming in, I had to become accustomed to the community, and I had been at A&M before I met my husband. I came and served 1 year in the laboratory high school in Huntsville, and in fact I think that's the way I persuaded him to come back. I enjoyed being in Huntsville so much, but when we came to A&M, it was quite different. It was a small school. Dr. Drake was the president, and we enjoyed our days very much, and of course we've seen it grow over the years. Being a minister's wife is a little different, I guess, and rearing a family in that environment. But it has been a pleasure. I have known to stay in the background and allow my husband to do what he had to do. He was very busy because he was serving also as an adjunct professor at Oakwood for a while. And working with the fraternity and then pastoring the church, and I was trying to hold things together at home, rearing two children of whom I'm very proud. And I guess it was just a typical pastor's wife's life. Okay. But I learned to adjust, and I love the congregation and love the people that I met here in Huntsville, and I still do for that matter, because we still attend the same church, even though he is no longer the pastor, but we are still members of that church. Yes.
Okay. Now, we talked about, with Brother Bradford, his years as the chair of the Department of Music at Alabama A&M, but you were also the director of the university choir for a number of years. And I wasn't in the choir, but I always enjoyed their performances. And I think a lot of that was because of who their director was. And I just know that everyone throughout my years at A&M, when they referred to Mrs. Bradford, they called her Mama Bradford.
Right.
So what must that be like, and what was it like for you to know that you were having such an influence on the lives of all of those decades of young people?
I think perhaps I sort of thought of all of them as my own children, and I tried to treat them in that manner. And I guess that's where the Mom Bradford part came from, because I felt like I could speak to them just as I would my own children. They knew to expect discipline from me as their mother, and they knew to accept praise from me as their mother. That I was very proud of all the things that they did. I still am, and I still hear from them. So I just sort of adopted all of them as my children. And they felt free to come here, and sit on the floor and sing or talk or whatever we had to do over the years. So I didn't know any other way to treat them, except they all belonged to me. And I felt like a mother hen with all these little bitties.
Well, I can tell you, Mrs. Bradford, from all of the people that I know who were members of the university choir, they loved you and Brother Bradford and appreciate you greatly. Did and still do, as you said. That's made evident through the fact that they remain in contact with you.
Yes.
They call to check on you, and I run into people all the time and say, "How Mr. and Mrs. Bradford?" I'm like, they're still holding on. They're still holding on. What do you think, and again, we asked Brother Bradford this question, but want to know from you as well, what do you think Nell Lane Bradford's greatest legacy will be with all your years of educating and mentoring and tutoring and service? What do you think your greatest legacy is going to be?
Well, I haven't given it much thought, but I just hope it would be that all of my students and my own children have known how much I love them and how much I appreciate all the things that they do in their lives today. And I just want them to be the best they can be. And my efforts have always been to see that that happens. So whatever I can do or whatever we can do as a family, we've always done that. And that's all we know to do.
Okay.
Right.
And you've done it magnificently, ma'am, if I must say so.
Thank you so much.
All right. And thank you again, you and Brother Bradford, for inviting us into your home and letting us spend some time with you on this Saturday afternoon.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. We've enjoyed it.
So have we.
Right.
Enjoyed immensely. Thank you, ma'am.
All right.
Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you.
Once again, we have had the privilege and pleasure of having the opportunity to join two mentors, teachers, a mother and a father to so many people, and certainly stalwarts in the Alabama A&M University family, Brother Dr. Henry and Mrs. Nell Lane Bradford, this Saturday afternoon, and having the opportunity to talk with both of them about their lives of service and sovereignty, which is the university motto. We appreciate them for allowing us into their home to just spend a few moments with them and find out just how they have managed for all these decades and still look wonderful doing it, serving so many people and giving of their love and their life to so many young people over the decades. So we thank you so much for joining us, and we thank them. We'll see you soon.
We're here today to sit with Brother Charles Briggins to talk to him about his experiences with Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. How you doing today, Brother Briggins?
Fine, sir. I'm fine.
Thank you for taking time out to speak with us, but we just wanted to capture some of your experiences and some of the things that you ran into coming up during the segregation era and how Alpha evolved for you. So we'll start this off with our first question. Just tell us where you were born and kind of how you got to where you are today.
My goodness. I was born in Shelby County, Helena, Alabama.
Okay. All right. So did you go to school there, high school?
Yes,
I
was in high school.
Okay.
I had only one high school back in my day. The whole county, Shelby County. We went to Shelby County Training School.
Okay.
It was located in Columbiana.
Sure.
Alabama.
Okay. What's one of your most profound memories from the segregation era that kind of shaped you and changed you the most?
What we call job hunting.
Yes, sir.
I experienced a great deal trying to find a job, so to speak.
Okay.
And eventually I did. I found a job on the railroad.
Okay.
One of the worst experiences probably a young person could experience.
Okay.
I was called what you call a trackman.
Okay. Tell us how you ended up in college. Where'd you go to college, first of all, and how'd you end up there? Because I'm sure back in that era, a black man going to college was not a common thing.
You're just as true and that's a good question.
Yes, sir.
On the railroad, we didn't make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. But the money that I made, I told my students, and a lot of folk, back in that day. I dug a hole under the side of the house.
Okay.
I had a big fruit jar, big jar. And I put 2/3 of my money in that jar because I had in mind one day I was going to go to school.
Yes, sir.
After I graduated from high school, I'm going to go to school. Family wasn't able to send me. I said, but if I can work for a while and save my money, I might be able to get there, and then I can maneuver if I get to school.
Yes, sir.
And I had planned to go to A&M because several individuals in my little city there, 2 or 3 were A&M graduates, and there were some other, they talked about A&M.
Okay.
So, yes.
So when you got back to A&M and you finally decided you were going to become an alpha man, tell me about that experience.
Well, I observed the different fraternities, and I said Alpha is going to be the one for me.
Okay.
And a number of the individuals in the fraternity today, several brothers made me to the fraternity that's still in the fraternity here today. So I decided to pledge Alpha.
We had the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Bradford earlier, and he has, of course, a lot of history with the fraternity, especially the local chapters here, being one of the founding members. Tell us about some of your earlier experiences and what you know of Dr. Bradford.
Dr. Bradford was a tremendous man on the campus. Everybody respected Dr. Bradford. He and his wife, really, but certainly he, because he and his wife worked together.
Yes, sir.
He was over the music department. His wife was the director of the choir. And Dr. Bradford, one day I was going down the campus humming, and he heard me. And he said, come here, young man. You sound pretty good going down the campus. Can you sing? I said, maybe I can, I'm not sure. He said, well, have you had an experience? And I said, yes, I was in the high school choir, back in high school days. Come by my office, I need to see you, see what you can do. You sound pretty good. So this is how I got with him. Didn't know he was a fraternity man at the time.
Okay.
And so he said, come on in this room. He got on the piano and hit a few notes. And I kind of sounded off with the piano, and he said, that sounds pretty good. And finally, he said, come on and join the choir. Why don't you come and join the choir?
Okay.
I had been in military service, out and then back in school.
Yes, sir.
During this time. And so I got tied up with the choir, and then fraternity, found out he was Alpha, and this is how I got tied up with Alpha.
Okay.
And met all of the Alpha brothers on the campus, you see it.
Yes.
And pledged, and so.
Okay.
And this is how I got into the fraternity.
Good deal. Good deal. Have you ever had an opportunity to meet what we would call any of our prominent Alpha brothers? And if it's so, just explain that experience.
During my visit, since I've been in Alpha, we have what you call an Alpha ensemble there.
Yes, sir.
And we travel the country over. The national body invited us on numerous occasions to come and appear on that program during the national conventions.
And for those who may not know, expound a little bit on Alpha Ensemble.
The Alpha Ensemble originated right here in Huntsville.
Okay.
At one of the brothers' houses.
Okay.
Brother Harold Dickerson got this thing going, and Brother Mingo Clark.
Okay.
And especially Brother Mingo Clark moved from the local all the way up. He became very prominent in the fraternity. And so another individual by the name of Tommy Lockhart, myself, Mingo Clark, and Harold Dixon, we formed what you call an ensemble.
Okay. And what is that for those who may not know?
It's a quartet.
Okay.
So people call it quartet. And
Yes, sir. Yes.
We started singing locally.
Okay.
Then we moved out through Alabama.
Okay.
And on and on and on. Now, eventually, we made some recordings.
Awesome.
Tapes for the National Convention, and some are still around. Some of those tapes and some of the recordings, they're still around.
Okay.
Now, two of those individuals have passed since then.
Yes, sir.
Harold Dickerson and Mingo Clark, but Tommy Lockhart and myself, and then we of course brought in 3 other fellows, and we're still going.
Good deal.
Going strong.
Good deal. Good. Where would you like to see Alpha go in the future?
That's a good question. We want to go as far as we can go, and especially in this day and time, with all of the what we call hee-haw that we have in this country today. Alpha has always stood tall, and we have some prominent men across the country.
Okay.
And they do a good job on keeping the fraternity together and then chatting with those individuals who are congressmen and senators and this kind of thing.
Sure.
We stay close to them, and we have some individuals who are prominent members working with those individuals on a national level.
Right. We're sitting here in the Alpha House, and I know you played an instrumental role in the development and construction of this house. Tell us a little bit about that experience and how the Alpha House came to be.
Oh, what a question. Mingo Clark and myself, we were industrial arts majors in college. We knew how to use a hammer and a saw. A lot of people can't use. And so when the idea came that we needed a home, we was instrumental in getting this home built. And we spent many hours, even sneaking away from the job when we had an opportunity to come over here and build this place so we would have a place to meet and greet.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's what we did.
And you got it here, but like most things, it needs to grow if it's going to continue to live. What would you like to see the Alpha House grow to become?
We need to expand as far as we need some more land. And I hope that in the future, if we keep going in the direction that we're going now,
yes, sir,
we'll expand and get some more land, and then that way we can build more onto this place and make it even better for the fraternity and the local community.
Brother, I see you have a pen on, an Alpha pen, and it says legacy. Kind of keeping with that same concept, what advice would you give the young brothers who are coming up in Alpha now to continue that legacy?
I would say to them, first of all, you cannot follow behind individuals who are pursuing things that might not be good for themselves, their families, or the country. You need to keep your head on your body in such a way that they can see you as a living example of doing the right thing.
Yes, sir.
And that's important. And you have to be careful in this day and time, even in the local communities in which we live.
Yes, sir.
Because there's so many things going on. Right now we know about the shootings in schools and on the street and around homes. And we have to be careful about the individuals with whom we have our close contact with, which is very, very important.
Yes, sir.
The things that they do, you might not be able to do those things if you're going to survive and be the kind of individual that you want other people to see you move up in life on.
Okay. Last question for you. When it's all said and done, what do you want people to know about you?
I want them to know that I'm trying to do my very best to live the kind of life that will be it would be an example for other people young, and even middle and old
Yes, sir.
to follow.
Okay.
You can't do the things of the world. You got to do the right thing, and the first thing is look up. The good Lord will bless you for the things that you do right. Always.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I would say to them,
Yes, sir.
be careful about your friends.
All right, all right. Well, thank you so much, Brother Briggins. We appreciate you taking the time and sitting and talking with us. You're a great man of Alpha. We're honored to have you here today. We're honored to still have you with us, to teach us, to guide us, the young brothers in this fraternity. And we just appreciate your leadership, your mentorship, and all that you've done. And we hope this next generation of Alpha men can continue to hold the name high as you have done. And again, we just want to thank you for your time, sir.
Well, I certainly appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. We're here today with Brother Herman Mixon, and we want to talk with him about his experiences in Alpha and some of the things he experienced growing up in the segregation era. How are you doing today, sir?
Oh, fine. How are you today?
Doing well, doing well. First, let's start off by going back to the beginning. Where were you born? And just tell us a little bit about your childhood.
I was born in Birmingham, Alabama.
Okay.
I was the 11th out of 12 children
Wow.
in my family.
Okay.
And I went to the public schools in Birmingham, Alabama, elementary school through high school.
Okay. Where'd you go to high school in Birmingham?
I went to 2 high schools.
Okay.
The first was Oldham High School, which is currently a part of University of Alabama, Birmingham.
Okay.
They closed that school.
Okay.
And I transferred to what was the Western Oldham High School because I had planned to become a mechanic.
Okay.
And they had a vocational school there. And so I went there for 2 years and received a vocational certificate in auto mechanics as well as my high school diploma.
Okay, gotcha. So when were you at Morehouse? And tell us about your experience matriculating there.
Okay, I was at Morehouse from 1961 to 1965.
Okay.
It was a very challenging period because this was one of the early periods in the civil rights movement.
Yes, sir.
And I was involved.
Okay.
And in fact, that's the first time I went to jail.
Okay.
Because I was arrested at Greater Hospital in Atlanta because they had segregated waiting facilities. I had a serious sinus problem. Okay. And I went there to take care of my sinuses. And they had a colored waiting room and a white waiting room. Okay. I refused to go to the colored waiting room and went in the white waiting room. And they told me to leave to go to the other side, and I wouldn't do it. So as a result of that, I was arrested and put in jail and subsequently found guilty of disorderly conduct.
Okay. What does Alpha mean to you? If someone asked you that question, what would you say?
Alpha, to me, is a stalwart in the area of human rights because most of the leaders I've noticed over the years, they have worked in the area of trying to uplift mankind, irregardless of race, color, creed, religion, of anything of that nature.
Yes, sir. You talked briefly earlier about Dr. Martin Luther King and that he was an Alpha and that he did adjunct professor at Morehouse University. Did you get an opportunity to meet him, or did you have an opportunity during your life to meet any prominent Alpha men?
I didn't get a chance to meet him personally. Okay. I did go to his church, Ebenezer Baptist Church, and I heard him and his father preach that. Okay. So that was a great opportunity for me.
What was that experience like for you?
It was a very spiritual and moving experience. Okay. Because he was a very young man at that time, but he was focused on what he wanted to do in life, in his spiritual life. Yes. I don't think he had decided to be just a civil rights leader at that time. He was involved, but that was not his decision. I really think he was called by God to move in that arena.
What would you tell the young men of Alpha that are coming into the fraternity today? What would you want to pass on to them?
I think that Alpha is rich with culture. Manly deeds, scholarship, and love for all mankind are the aims of Alpha. And if the young men of today follow those aims,
yes, sir,
I think everything will be all right. Because I see many young men in Alpha today with great leadership skills.
yes, sir,
And they are reaching out to the community to serve all of mankind.
right,
Especially the chapter here in Huntsville, deals with Theta Lambda.
yes, sir,
Has a powerful influence on shaping the destiny of Huntsville. In fact, not only just Huntsville, because I've seen them operate at the local level, the state level, the regional level, and the national level.
yes, sir,
In various leadership capacities.
yes, sir.
And I am proud of the work that the young people in this chapter are doing and has been doing, and some of the older brothers too.
Yes.
And say like Dr. Mingo Clark was the Southern Regional Vice President
Yes.
of Alpha Fraternity.
Yes, sir.
And we have so many young people now that are working on the national level, working with Wilbur Brown, works with the March of Dimes. We have brothers working with the Boy Scouts, big brothers, big sisters.
Yes.
These are all civic deeds that these brothers have dedicated themselves to and reaching out to serve mankind.
One last question for you before we get out of here. When it's all said and done, what do you want people to remember you by?
I would say that I want people to remember me by the fact that I have a love for all mankind.
Okay.
I think that is the most significant part of life. To love yourself, love your God first, love yourself, and love others.
Well said. Well said. Well, thank you, Brother Mixon, for your time. We appreciate you. We appreciate your leadership in this fraternity. We appreciate all that you've done for Alpha. You named off so many things that Alpha does in the local community for this community and for members of this community. And I know you've participated in many of those activities. And we just want to thank you again for what you do for Alpha, what you do for this community, and what you continue to do in all that you do. So thank you, and we appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you.
We're here today with Colonel Retired James Hayward, and we're going to be talking to him today about his experiences in Alpha, some of his experiences growing up in the segregation era and civil rights movement. So how are you doing today, Colonel?
I'm doing fine.
All right.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks for sitting down and talking with us. Tell us a little bit about where it all started for you. Where were you born and some of your earlier experiences of childhood?
Yeah, I was born in Sumter, South Carolina.
Okay.
And that's my home.
Okay.
And of course I went to school there, and elementary and high school.
Yes, sir.
And when I became of college age, I left home.
Okay.
But that's my home.
Okay.
And that's where I grew up. Had many fine experiences.
Where'd you get a chance to go to college?
I went to college at South Carolina State University.
Okay.
In Orangeburg, South Carolina.
Okay.
And I was there for 4 years.
All right.
And while there, of course, I had some leadership roles.
Sure.
I joined a fraternity. I was telling someone the other day that I joined a fraternity my sophomore year.
Okay.
December of my sophomore year.
Okay.
And And they were boasting the other day, and I said, someone came up with 60 years. I told them in December I will have been an Alpha for 65 years.
All right. Good deal. Awesome. So leadership's in your blood.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'm handsome. God has blessed me.
Yes. Well, when I introduced you as Colonel Retired. So tell us a little bit about your military experience and those leadership roles.
I of course, went into the Army as a second lieutenant, and I graduated. And that was in July 7, 1953.
Wow.
And the war ended in July 31, 53. I kidded people and said they knew I was coming, so they declared peace.
Tell us a little bit about that era and being an African-American officer in a segregated world that we lived in.
Yes, of course, the Army was integrated at that time.
Okay.
And so I didn't experience segregation per se as a part of segregated units.
Right.
But of course, you could experience some holdovers from the time that it wasn't.
Yes.
From some of the old non-commissioned officers and officers and who had served in the Second World War. Mm-hmm. And they complained about, well, I'd be glad when this is over because they're not doing the things they used to do. And, they complain about the military.
Right.
But guess what? The military survived and thrived.
Yes.
And they retired and died and left and kept going.
Yeah.
But the military kept on moving.
Yes, good deal. Tell us about some of your experiences when you were in college there at South Carolina State, becoming an alpha man.
Well, I had one blood brother,
okay,
who was an alpha.
Okay.
So, and of course, I guess I tried to follow in his footsteps. He was a teacher in Columbia, South Carolina.
Okay.
And I became an alpha and had many experiences, fine experiences. Of course, as an officer in the chapter, we built floats for homecoming and all, in the rush, stayed up all night long building a float, and doing those kinds of things, and had a very successful tour as president and as at South Carolina State. Okay. And of course, as I told you before, when I graduated, I went into the Army to Fort Benning, Georgia. Sure. And but at South Carolina State, we had very fine. I was very fine faculty, I felt, and I also had the experience of working while I was at South Carolina State. Okay. And I guess that's one of the reasons I stayed in school, because I worked. I had a job and in the library.
Alpha means different things to different men, but tell us what alpha means to you.
Alpha to me means that a group of men have learned and participated to take a leading role. They take a leading role in whatever they do. In the community, in the church, in other organizations, and they come together and they provide, if you will, leadership and direction. Not that they usurp it and take it themselves, but in a democratic process, and guide men and women too, if necessary, if it's a joint kind of organization, and take the leading role. And they've done that. I've seen that over the years. And that to me is one shining example. First of all, servants of all. And we shall transcend all, particular servants of all.
You talked a bit about, meeting different alpha men. Have you ever had an opportunity to meet some prominent alphas? You've been around a while, and the Jewels were actually living during some of the time where you were an alpha. Did you have an opportunity to meet any prominent alphas?
Yeah, I met, I'm trying to think now of his name, but he was president when I was a student. Okay. At South Carolina State. We had a conference there, a meeting, and but he's one of the old-time lawyers from Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And his name slips me now, but I met him, of course. I met the president of Alcorn at that time, and he was a former president. Okay. And I met a number of dignitaries, alpha men who, while I was in the chapter being very active,
sure,
and doing the conventions that I met many of them. I used to boast, the Alpha Ensemble, you know about them.
Yes,
of course,
sir.
we have them here. And when I was president, and we had our national convention in San Francisco.
Okay.
And I was president of this chapter here, Delta Theta Lambda chapter, and my brother, blood brother that I mentioned, he was president of a chapter in Columbia, South Carolina. Okay. And it was kind of very nice. Both of us were presidents of chapters at the same time. Okay. And so we were in San Francisco at the time, and it was very, very interesting. We had just a wonderful time there.
And tell us a little bit about what you would like to see Alpha be in the future. What is your future vision for Alpha?
Well, I would like to see Alpha take a leadership role in building communities and a leadership role in leading young men.
Yes, sir.
Also politically, I'd like to see Alpha take a leading role politically in doing that which is right.
Right.
And not necessarily supporting a person just because from where he's from, what his race is, but what he stands for.
Yes, sir.
And what visions he has for this community and this nation in which we live.
Sure, sir. Experience is wisdom, and so you have a lot of wisdom that you personally have. But what I'd like for you to do is just for a moment tell us some of the things that you would like for young alphas coming up today. Some of the wisdom you can impart and share with them.
Well, again, it sort of borders on what I have. I would like to see them, young alphas, focus on their training. If it's if they're still in school, their training, their grades, their careers. Focus on that, and leave some of the partying for the good times for later on.
When it's all said and done, what is it that you want people to know about you?
I would like for people to know about me that I helped someone along the way, and I did my best, and I tried to help other people. That's the main thing, helping other people as I come this way.
All right, good deal. Well, thank you, sir, for your time. I think you said it best earlier. First of all, service of all, we shall transcend all.
Thank you, Brother Clay.
Thank you.